Well, this is a real pleasure. He is entering his first year as the head football coach of the LSU Fighting Tigers, coming here from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. It's Brian Kelly. Coach, thanks so much.
My pleasure, Jacques.
We appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one thing I took away from you from spring, every time I went to a press conference, us in the media, we might be talking about position battles or whatnot. You seem to always be speaking to they need to get up to speed with what we expect out of them. They're not used to this. This is hard for them. It seemed like you were speaking to the team as a whole in terms of raising their overall, standard here.
Yeah, and I don't think I was just talking about football. I was talking about everything that they do, from their habits, classroom, academics, what we do in the community, because all those things matter, right? I mean, everything that you do is about taking that to the field, attention to detail, your focus, how you bring the right attitude every single day, because all of these things go to winning. So I guess that's what I was talking about in terms of a bigger picture.
We don't need to name names, but is it safe to say there are a few guys who maybe were late for meetings, didn't do what you wanted to do, that are no longer here?
Yeah, I guess, you set a bar, right? And some know that they can meet and exceed that standard, and some really find that this is not what I can do. And they're going to look for an easier path. And so we just set those standards, and we're not looking to run anybody out of the program. I'm about player development. I want guys to succeed, and so we put a standard together, and guys have to choose that that's what they want to do, and some just can't reach that standard.
Kind of a two-part question for you. How much did you watch the 2019 LSU Dream Team? And were you surprised at all when you came here less than 2 years later, the state of the program when you got here?
Well, I think everybody watched that prolific offense. And, I think it got overshadowed a little bit, but the defense was really good too, certainly. But when you're watching, college football, I don't think anybody could not watch that offense. It was so prolific. Look, I think it's like anything else. I mean, when you're in the SEC, if you just slip a little, you slip a lot, and because the competition is so keen. But if you look at what happened last year, they rise up and they beat an A&M, and they play Alabama right to the very end. So, look, the margins are very small. So was there a slip of the standards? Certainly, but. I don't think that, 2 years later it was cataclysmic, but it was enough that a change was warranted by the administration, and that's why I'm here, to make sure that we get back to the things necessary to bring this program back.
I think about what's possible here with you. I go back a decade, 2012, when you're at Notre Dame.
Yep.
You maximize that team, you go undefeated, you reach the national championship game. It just seemed like you were outmatched against Alabama.
No doubt.
In terms of talent.
Mm-hmm.
That same year, LSU plays Alabama at home. Probably one of the biggest coulda, shoulda, woulda games in LSU history. Tiger fans would tell you they let them off the hook. But LSU plays them to a standstill in Tiger Stadium. If you're coaching that LSU team in that national championship, right, maybe it's more of a even fight.
Well, the physicality is what we lacked. I thought, games are won and lost still the same way in the trenches, and they were much more physical than we were at the point of attack. I thought we had some really good players across the board on both sides of the ball, but they controlled the line of scrimmage. They were able to run the football. They were big, they were strong, they were physical on both sides of the ball, and that was the difference. And quite frankly, my comments were right to that fact, that we needed to develop. And since that time, we had developed 6 first-round offensive linemen, because we needed to focus on that, and I think we did.
Graduate champions, that has been something that is being said around here a lot. We visited with Brad Davis, who's the only coach that was really brought back from last year's staff. He mentioned that to us over and over, graduate champions. At the end of the day, you'll be judged by how many games you win, not how many people walk across the stage. But is that really important to you?
It's absolutely crucial, because I think they go hand in hand. I don't think you get a championship unless you are talking about excelling both on and off the field. It's kind of what I talked about earlier, Jacques, is that you have to have that attention to detail in the classroom. We want to be able to do that. I think you can at LSU. You can talk about excellence both on and off the field and not have to apologize about it. So I think that the traits are universal. I think if you are doing the work in the classroom, if you're on top of things, you're going to be on top of things when you get to the field. You're not cutting classes, you're probably not going to be jumping offside. Those things are definitely transferable.
Have you heard from any professors that say, hey, Coach, we appreciate that? Or,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've heard it from faculty. I've heard it from staff. You know, I think it starts to resonate when your players call you and say, Coach, let me tell you about my grades. I'm so proud of what I've accomplished. And that's what we're trying to instill in our players, is that you can do both. We want you to feel good about what you're doing in the classroom, because if you feel good and you've got a great attitude about what you're doing, again, the carryover is going to be on the football field.
Coach, what is pillars of the program?
Well, again, I think it starts with what your standards are. And for us, we talked about what our mission is, and that is to graduate champions. And then it's the preparation. You know, what goes into the preparation? First of all, we've got to build great traits. You know, it's not just about talent. We know the state of Louisiana, and we've got a board up here, right? Tigers across America, but you can see where everybody's coming from. They're coming from right here in the state of Louisiana. I mean, we want them from this state. We want to recruit in this area, but we want to recruit the right young men too, and they've got to have great traits. And that is, they've got to have an attention to detail. They've got to have great focus. They've got to be gritty. They've got to be able to bounce back when they get knocked down. They've got to have a great attitude, and we want them to be smart. And I don't just mean book smart. I want them to make good choices. That's another pillar. And then the preparation part, understanding the difference between, you know, when we practice and prepare versus when we're ready to go compete. And that takes a lot from our players to understand the little things. And those are, you know, those are our pillars to success. It's called, and I know you guys hate this word, but that's our process at the end of the day. I
saw you talking to your incoming freshmen, and you were kind of hammering that point home with them. From this point forward, you represent LSU.
No doubt. Yeah. Look, I mean, we talked about Tyrann Matthews. We talked about, you know, Landry. Those guys, the front page, when I saw it, it was Tigers return home. I mean, you never lose that tag, and you need to wear it proudly, but you also know that you're representing LSU in everything you do.
Yeah, the Saints are signing some LSU Tigers. How about that?
It's awesome. We love it. We love seeing that.
You've worked here roughly 6 months. Just this football ops building, which underwent a major renovation not too long ago, your practice facility, Tiger Stadium down the street. How do you like the layout of this place, your day-to-day? And are there some things that you need in terms of facilities that you'd like to add? Well,
the geography is outstanding. And when I say geography, in terms of getting around campus, getting our players to and from the facility, you know, we've got a great nutrition center here where we can feed our players, the ability to train here, to meet here. We have all the needs that you know, any program needs. We have to enhance our medical facilities, and Bo Lowry does a great job as our head athletic trainer, but he needs more space, and we're in a fundraising project right now to enhance our athletic training facility, in particular the rehabilitation services for our players. So that's an area that we'll improve on. Scott Woodward is committed to that end. There are other bigger projects, and you know them as well as anybody. You know, we've got to get the PMAC up and running, and there needs to be some renovations there for sure. But this is a project that's been underway for a while, and we'll see that come to fruition.
In terms of rehabbing players and getting them back up when they're injured and
Absolutely.
stuff like that.
We just don't have the space down there. And so that's something that will be addressed, and we'll move forward. And that will give us all the things necessary here.
You're 60 years old. Is 60 the new 50?
I feel great. I mean, I'm in the best shape of my life. At least that's what the doctors tell me. So, you know, from that perspective, I've got great energy. This job excites me. You know, I think when you're tired and you don't love what you're doing and you don't have your why defined, maybe you feel the age. But for me, you know, having the experience, having the confidence, having the resources, having great alignment allows you to come to work every day and feel like it doesn't matter what age is.
I was sitting with the great Kim Mulkey about a year ago when they hired her. I think you two are like 1 year apart.
Yep.
And I asked her.
She's older, right? No, I'm kidding. Kim's going to see this. She's going to come down to my office and probably knock me out.
Just real quick, just being around somebody like that, you know, here on the campus?
Well, first of all, it brings the best out of you, right? Yeah. I mean, you see what she did this year, and you look at yourself and go, look, you know, we've got to keep up with that, and it sets the table too, right? In terms of, you know, these are the standards of LSU, and I think for everybody, it says, look, you know, everybody's got a job to do, and she set a great example.
I asked her last year, how long do you see yourself doing this? You can give LSU 10 good years or what? And she said, well, you can't predict your health. You know, that's the number one thing.
No doubt.
But yourself, there's some people that say, there's no way I'm coaching when I hit my 70s or whatnot. Do you say, well, I'm going to do this for 10 years and maybe do something else? Or do you have any idea?
You know, I take it, you know, 1 year at a time. I didn't know that I'd be the longest tenured coach, winningest coach in Notre Dame history. That was never part of, you know, that first contract. You never think in those terms. You think about, I was wanting to make sure I ran out of the tunnel and didn't trip my first game and embarrass myself and my family. So I really try to stay in the present. I know what my job is. I'm excited about it here. But again, I think looking too far in the future, I try to stay away from that.
You had some fun with Walker Howard, dancing in a video and whatnot,
Yeah.
and you know, you said that's my coach. Is it safe to say that's something you would have not done at Notre Dame?
I would not have done that at Notre Dame. You know, it's just you know, a different place, a different time. You know, I've always kind of looked at my situation and said, you know, I think as a leader, you got to, you know, always shift and change and look to improve and sometimes reinvent yourself. And I don't know that I reinvented myself in all of those areas, but, you know, when a young man looks at you and says, Coach, let's have some fun with this, you know, why not? You know, and I think sometimes we get too caught up in what other people think instead of the people that are asking you to do some things. And I had some fun with it, and I'm glad I did.
Awesome. Many highly successful football coaches, like yourself, have been labeled gruff or not very personable or whatnot. And I think a lot of people have been surprised since you got here. This guy actually is personable. He's got a sense of humor. You know, he's a lot warmer than the guy that maybe they painted you as on television from afar for the last whatever years. Is that just our Southern hospitality wearing off on you, or have I always been personable?
No, I think my first couple of years I was pretty intense, and I think when there's a camera in your locker room, so to speak, and you're on TV all the time, you know, you get a snapshot of that, and that kind of sticks with you. But I think, you know, I think probably the last 5 or 6 years, it's been a much more even-tempered demeanor. I love being around the players, and I think if you ask my players, they would tell you that it's fun being around Coach Kelly. And so I think that probably was earlier in my career where I was so intense, and that intensity was seen on national television a lot, and it kind of painted probably a broader brush than it really is.
You have a big salary, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Some people would say there's a lot of pressure on you to win here. Other people would say, well, it's 90% guaranteed. There's not a whole lot of pressure. He not only is going to go to the beach, he's going to buy the beach, you know. But just you as a head coach, I mean, is there always still just that pride to do the things that I do the best that I can do, no matter how much money I'm being paid?
Well, you wouldn't be in this for 32 years like I have if you were chasing dollars. If you're chasing dollars and that's what motivates you, I would have been out of this a long time ago because I would have probably been fired. I've never chased the dollars. And, you know, quite frankly, when you think about it, you know, the big contract, you know, it's almost disrespectful to LSU when people say, well, Coach Kelly went for the money. I would never have taken a job for a little bit more money if it wasn't the best job. I had a great job. This is a better opportunity for me. And so people really need to understand that. Is it a great salary? Absolutely. And blessed to have that. But it's the job. It's LSU. That's really why I'm here. Because you don't leave a situation like Notre Dame unless it's a better opportunity for you.
And just watching you in your day-to-day operations, kind of reminds me of Jay Johnson, the baseball coach. He just seems like he's like this, no matter win, lose, or whatever. And when you go to practice, Skip Bertman said nothing great is accomplished without enthusiasm. But if you get all wired up on caffeine and bounce around and don't do anything, you don't get anything done. It just seems like you have a pretty meticulous day-to-day, I'm going to get this stuff done today. And I think fans enjoy the optics of seeing you with a tablet and taking notes at practice and your attention to detail.
Yeah, you know, I have a saying, don't mistake activity for achievement. And you can be running around and everybody could look like they're moving, but you really have to be accomplishing things during those times that you're out there. And I don't like to spend a lot of time. I don't do a lot of staff meetings, but when I do, we need to be really thoughtful, intentional in what we do. I think that's what you'll see. The things that I like to do have to have real thoughtful preparation. And then when we get together in a practice situation, I want to make sure they're done the right way. And if they're not, I'm going to take some notes so we can make sure that we correct them next time out.
Coach, I don't know if you've heard, NIL is a big deal right now in college football.
Well, there's a lot of things in college football that are a big deal. That's one of them.
That have changed in a very short period of time.
No doubt.
So, Kayshon Boutte. So it was a hot rumor that he might get poached by another team in the SEC, and somebody needed to step up with some NIL money to stop that from happening. January the 10th, Kayshon Boutte announces a partnership with Gordon McKernan. May the 3rd, another tweet goes out. Kayshon Boutte is here to stay. Another partnership is announced, and I'm saying, well, didn't we do this already? So where is the line between these young men maximizing their opportunities and, hey, give me as much as I can get?
Right. Well, I think there is a line, and I think the line is, and I'll use Kayshon for example. He doesn't have his hand out. He knows that he's got an opportunity to play in the NFL, and that's his real opportunity to make money. And so the opportunities that he's gotten for name, image, and likeness are real. And they're based upon success that he's already had on the field, because there are community leaders that see that he could help them in their businesses. So we're all for those kinds of situations. But I think what we're doing in educating our players is that it's not, you do this for me and I'll do that for you. This has to be about really understanding that we're going to help you build your brand, but it's not for free. You've got to do the little things right on a day-to-day basis. You've got to honor a contract. You've got to pay your taxes. And it's time consuming as well. You have to do all those things. And I think what our players are understanding is that, there's a lot involved with name, image, and likeness. And if I have the time to do it and do it the right way and finish off some of these obligations, then I'll do it. If not, I'm going to focus on training. And that's what Kayshon's doing right now. He's getting ready for a great season because he knows that if he's a first-round draft pick, name, image, and likeness is short money for him.
And no offense to my good friends Chet Boudreaux and all those great people at Gordon McKernan, but the other day too, so Kayshon poses in front of a very expensive car, presumably his. He puts it on Instagram. Some people will say, hey, don't be a hater. He earned that money. If he bought that car, it's his. Other people don't like the look of that. Where do you stand on something like that?
Yeah, I think I can understand both sides of it, but it's not pay for play. It's, again, he has to go out and promotionally do things and using his name, which, as we all know, this is a young man that has a chance to be the best wide receiver in the country. And so others are probably going to do well off of his name and his image and likeness. So there is an exchange there. So I do see both sides of it, and I can understand that. I think, Kayshon certainly, I think has been educated more about this whole process, and I think he's been humbled by it as well. And being injured, I think he's anxious to go out and prove that all of these things will be, I think, worthwhile for him moving forward.
I saw the recent interview you did, and I guess in the New Orleans area, where you talked about shooting one across his bow and kind of, getting him, hey, be engaged with this, even though you're hurt. And you said he answered the bell and did everything.
I was proud of him. I really was, because some would take it the other way and say, I'm not going to do this. But by the end of the spring, he was coaching our younger players. He was doing the little things the right way. He's been in the training room. He wasn't earlier. All I know is that he's doing the little things necessary for himself and our team that's going to put him in a good position later.
I know us in the media, we often treat, obviously, a student athlete different than a professional player with the Saints. They're not getting paid. They've got to go to class. They're kids. They're doing the best they can. If a 18-year-old misses a 35-yard field goal and loses the game or whatnot, no one feels worse about it than him. or fumbles at the goal line. But do you feel like this NIL money is kind of making them professional athletes to an extent and putting some more pressure on them to perform?
I just don't think it's across the board. Good. There are singular players that have been able to leverage their name recognition for it. But look, it's hard for fans to emotionally separate the difference between a New Orleans Saint win or loss and an LSU win or loss. It's hard to. How do you separate those emotions when you're passionate Tiger fans and you're passionate Saint fans? It's hard. Throw NIL money in there. I don't know that makes a difference because you're going to be passionate about both. So at the end of the day, I think these young men just need to continue to be educated about it, continue to understand that there are expectations that are high here at LSU, regardless of whether you have NIL money or not.
You come to LSU, there's going to be pressure no matter what.
No matter what, absolutely.
Now, and just to be clear on this, and just so the fans know, when you go recruit a kid, you can't tell that kid, hey, come to LSU and I'll have a $250,000 NIL deal waiting for you.
No, you cannot. No, that is not anything that is part of the spirit of what name, image, and likeness is. Remember now, we can help build that. We can help and have resources for them, but we can't promise them X amount of dollars in saying that this is what we can do. I'm really excited about what we're putting together and what we're going to be able to talk about here pretty soon once the legislation changes, because we can help. We can be more part of this whole process for them. But yeah, no, you can't lay out any numbers and say this is what we're going to be able to do for you.
So it's up to the business people in the community to kind of take the ball and run with it. And there are some that can do that, and there's probably some others that say, Coach, look, I can pay for my 4-season tickets, a parking pass, and that's it. I'm tapped out, you know.
Absolutely. And there are other ways to do it. You know, you can set up, NFTs are a way to sell NFTs and set up NIL clubs for the players so they can run those. There are many different ways to look at this, and I think people are going to be creative. I think we're going to be very creative as we move forward too. And I think the bottom line here is that you want as much control in helping set these things up for the players so they can be educated, so they understand what contracts are, so they understand what it is about paying off and finishing off contracts, you know? Yeah. So I think that's the most important thing for me.
You made a great point a while ago. Adults struggle with taxes, right? I mean, these 18 and 20, you got to do your taxes.
Yeah, and so, let's say you come out with payments. When do you want those payments to come out? Maybe they come out in April, so it helps them when they have to make those payments. So there are a lot of little things that I think we've delved into that we think we can help our guys with.
These are just two examples, but for example, Jamar Chase, he opts out on the 2020 season. He's a top 5 pick, and we know what he's been doing in the league. Derek Stingley, he only played in 3 games last year, was injured. He's a top 3 pick. Are you afraid that this kind of damages college football and its importance, maybe, in terms of the way it's viewed?
Well, I think those are always going to be part of it. You have to make business decisions for yourself if you are. Look, those signing bonuses are 10 to $15 million for signing bonuses, and those are tough business decisions. It's the 2nd and 3rd and the 4th round draft picks that you probably, scratch your head with. But I think if you're a premier, I had Kyle Hamilton at Notre Dame. I had no problem with Kyle Hamilton deciding not to play the last few games. I think that was a smart decision. It was sound. And, obviously he came up with an $8 or $9 million signing bonus. So I think those are individual decisions. I think what we need to do is make sure that we continue to educate guys on, what does that money look like for them moving forward, because it's generational wealth. And who's going to ever quarrel with somebody that they're talking about generational wealth?
For example, let's say you're finishing your regular season. You're 9-3 or 10-2. You're going to play Penn State in the Citrus Bowl or maybe Baylor in the Sugar Bowl. You got a chance to finish in the top 10. That's important to you, isn't it?
Absolutely. It should be important to our players too.
Don't you feel like, I don't know if it's a playoff that's hurting this, but you got more and more fans that I feel like are turning their nose up that, it's the old Ricky Bobby. If you don't finish first, you're last or whatever, And bowl, or is the bowl system kind of hurting because of the playoff? And you got 130 teams in the FBS, and only 4 make the playoff.
Right.
And
again, I think that this is the kind of conversations that Commissioner Sankey was part of. I think we all wanted to see the playoffs grow. I think everybody was under that except for a couple of conferences, and that's why the SEC is thinking about maybe you know, we'll entertain conversations about maybe in 2025, maybe we have our own playoffs. So I think your point's valid.
Yeah.
But again, I think when you have players and coaches that are committed to the season and finishing the season off, I don't know what the right answer is, but when you have a passionate fan base, they're going to follow you. I think the national following dips a little bit, but I think your fan bases, your strong fan bases, will continue to follow you.
The Pro Sportsbook has you at 6.5 wins this season.
You know, they're really smart. That's why they build all those casinos, and so, you know, anything over 6.5, I guess we should applaud everybody around here for a job well done.
That won't be an amendment to your contract, will it?
No, it certainly won't. We didn't come down here to win 6.5 games. That's for certain.
So the freshmen are coming in. I'll just name a couple, for example. Harold Perkins, top player in the state from Texas, right?
Yeah. You know, really an interesting observation for me, in that, you know, many people talked about his physical skills and then decommitting and flipping. Probably one of the most thoughtful young men that I was around in this class. How much time he took to really get to know us in a very short period of time. We did a number of Zoom calls with him. His questions were deep and thoughtful about how he was going to be taught. Just the entire, I think, recruiting process with him really reached a new level for me, in the sense that this wasn't a kid looking for any handouts or, you know, what can you do for me or can I start? Was really, really impressed with this young man.
Emory Jones from Catholic High covered their state championship game this year. I think they ate off the final 9 minutes of the clock just running the ball. I'm sure they ran behind him a lot, but very impressive young man as well. I mean, with Will Campbell, you got some really impressive offensive linemen.
Yeah, and we know about Will, and we saw him handle himself against some very, very good defensive players, and that's why I can talk a little bit about Will and know that Emory brings a lot of those traits. So, you know, we're excited to get him out there. I mean, Jake Flint and his staff and the strength and conditioning will have him this summer. I think we'll get a better glimpse in terms of, you know, what his strengths are, and look forward to working with him coming into preseason camp.
I feel like if I ask you about the quarterback situation, it's kind of a throwaway question, because you really didn't, like you said after the end of the spring game, we didn't solve anything,
right,
and there's a long way to go before you play Florida State when that's even going to be decided. Yeah,
you know, again, and I've said this and you've heard me say it many times, is that we needed to install the offense. That was the most important thing. Nomenclature, vocabulary, signaling, all that had to get put in. So it really didn't lean towards and feature the skills of any one of those 4 quarterbacks. Now, when we go into preseason camp, we have to focus on what parts of those offenses really work for those individuals. That's when we'll have the holes in. Now we'll go to the part of the offense that fits each one of those, and that's when we'll start to see some separation.
I was out, Patrick Queen was doing a free football camp at Livonia over the weekend. There was some LSU Tigers, current LSU Tigers there helping out. B.J. Ojulari just seems like an impressive kid. Seems like he's a leader that you can lean on this year. Really
been impressed with him. You know, we've put him out front for a reason. He's one of our leaders in our SWAT team, which is our accountability team. You know, we brought him to an NCAA event that really, again, hosts senior leaders. Really liked his growth. Both as a person, as a leader, as one of our, you know, top players as well. I think you're going to continue to see that, and his growth has been really fun to watch over the last 6 months.
We've been knowing Nick Brossette over a decade, from U-High to LSU, and no one loves this place more than that guy, so I think that was a real good hire on your part. Can you just talk about what he's going to do for you?
Yeah, you know, continue to get the message out to our alumni that how important it is for them to be part of what we're doing, educating them on how important it is to get back here and keep the bridge, to LSU football. Also high school coaches, and letting them know how important it is that they are and continue to develop the players for the flagship university in this state, and community outreach as well. So, Nick is well positioned to do that. As you know, he's got a great personality, and we think that is something that can really enhance our program.
Speaking of running backs, I missed one question. During the spring, you were talking about you think this is going to be a running back by committee type situation. You remember Leonard Fournette, don't you, from Nashville?
He wasn't much of a committee member. He was the chairman. Yeah.
There's two ways to do it. Get a Leonard Fournette that you can turn around and hand the ball to 20, 25 times, or maybe your current situation right now. So, and then there's the, well, coach, man, I need 10, 15 carries. I can't get by on 5 or 8. So, but you get them all involved, and they feel like they're part of the game plan. So is that kind of the dance?
Yeah, I think so. I think each one of them brings a skill set that, again, has complemented our offense well. I think they all know that they're fighting for opportunities. It's a competitive situation. They all showed really good signs. I think really what they're all looking for is how do they get on the field on third down, which is picking up protections, catching the ball out of the backfield. And the guy that can get more of the third down touches is probably the guy that gets more carries.
Scott Woodward, I hear if there's one place he's hanging out, it's here. Being in the football ops building. He obviously, apparently from what I read in a 45-minute conversation with you, sold you on this job, convinced you to come here and whatnot. The alignment, that's the word, right? And with President Tate and whatnot. Working with him the last 6 months and his vision for what you want to do here?
Enjoyable. And he's not a micromanager. He's not over here asking about, hey, what do you think? Why don't we have the 3 techniques slant into, the B gap? It's none of that. It's just, what do you need? Observations, and again, as you know, he's from Baton Rouge, so he's always trying to keep me connected to the next person that I need to be aware of, and so a lot of it is just from him, keeping me educated, and as somebody that's never been here before, he's such a great resource. So it's not coming over here to talk football every day, though he does love the recruiting part of it. He loves the dynamics there. And of course, he has to have his fingers on the pulse of it because it's ever changing. And that's why he's over here, and I love having him over here.
All right, before I finish with the Golden Cleats Combine and your foundation and whatnot, a couple of lighthearted things. Coach, I don't care how you pronounce family. It doesn't matter to me. I don't think it matters in how many games you're going to win. It felt like it was the most overblown storyline. I felt like we were in July, like there was nothing going on or something.
Yeah, it was, and I still say family. So I think it's been the cross of a Boston accent meeting a Baton Rouge accent, and it's just one of those things that it just doesn't come out the right way, and I still say it the same way. So if I do it again, they're going to think I'm faking it again. So it is what it is.
That sounded normal to me just now.
Family? Yeah. That's the way I said it, and they just thought that was a fake accent.
I was at the station watching the speech at the basketball game, and I said, that was cool, and I walked away, and I didn't think anything of it.
Oh,
but,
well.
The statute of limitations has run out. Are you ready to admit during the Music City Bowl that Brad Cragthorpe scored on the fake field goal?
Well, I think forward progress had been stopped. I heard a whistle.
That's another thing during the summer. Every now and then, people get bored. Topic. He scored, on that play.
He didn't officially, but he might have unofficially.
Notre Dame kicks the field goal at the gun and wins, and then you had that long touchdown pass. You won them both against LSU.
Yeah, so. I've got the guitar to prove it. They gave a guitar out to the winning team.
Have you eaten crawfish since you've been in South Louisiana?
More times than I've eaten probably any other crustacean.
Okay.
Easily. Over shrimp, over lobster.
Okay.
No doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't weird, wasn't icky, you were right in there.
No, I had crawfish before.
Okay.
But we probably had our best crawfish at the spring game. It was pretty impressive.
Not many crawfish bowls in South Bend, Indiana, I don't think.
Hadn't had them, though my daughter graduated from Notre Dame a couple of weeks ago, and the local bar called the Linebacker. Of course, I got to have a linebacker bar. In honor of her coming down here, because she's going to go to graduate school here, they had a crawfish boil for her, so it was kind of nice.
Is Rudy a good movie?
I think it's a really good movie.
Okay.
Because, well, first of all, Rudy is one of those, emotional kind of, and we all kind of identify, right? Because most of us weren't good players. I know I wasn't. and you can kind of dream a little bit. So that's a good move.
It was made right after Hoosier, same heart, same kind of spirit. Even if some of the facts were maybe
yeah, they kind of were not exactly 100%. It's Hollywood.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate all this time. Tell me about June 7th, the Golden Cleats Combine that you've got coming up.
Yeah, so along with the Bengal Bells, which we all know is just a great organization and has helped, fundraise and deliver on so many great things here in LSU athletics, we will be holding, our first women's clinic. It's a football kind of, open house where we can kind of bring the ladies in, give them an inside look of LSU football. Our coaches will be involved. My foundation and my wife's foundation, Kelly Cares, is a Playbook for Hope, and it was started with my wife's battle with cancer. She's had a couple of them, and we wanted to give back. And this has been one of those events that we've had for the last 15 years, and to be able to do it with a group like the Bengal Bells, it just felt right. And so we're going to be able to do that and host it here and raise a little money. And
your foundation does work year-round, or?
Yeah, obviously the one thing that has slowed us down, we've been able to give back over $5.5 million to a number. We feel like we're a first responder to a number of different charities and organizations, hundreds. But since COVID, we've slowed down. We had to lay off a lot of our staff, unfortunately. And we're going to do our first event in Louisiana, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Awesome. We really appreciate all your time.
Thanks, John.
I'll ask you questions about your team and stuff at SEC Media Days and during fall. I wanted to talk about you, the man. So.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Pleasure.